The China-Mender. Good morning, Mr. What-do-you-call? Well, here's another pretty job. Lord help my lady, what a smash! If only you had heard her sob. It was all through Mr. Lambert, but for certain he was whiny. To think for to go down to sit down in a table full of china. Deuce take your stupid head, says my lady to his very face. But politeness, is nothing when there's china in the case. And if ever a woman was fond of china to a passion, it's my mistress, and all sorts of it, whether new or old-fashioned. Her brother's a sea captain, and brings her home shiploads. Such bronzes and such dragons, and nasty squatting little things like toads. And great Nindodin mandarins with palsies in the head. I declare I've often dreamt of them and had nightmares in my bed. But the frightfuller they are. Look, she loves them all the better. She'd have old Nick himself made of china if they'd let her. Look a mercy, break her china, and it's breaking her very heart. If I'd touch it, she would very soon say, Mary, we must part. To be sure, she is unlucky. Only Friday comes Master Randall, and breaks a broken spout, and fresh chips a teacup handle. He's a dear, sweet little child, but he will so finger and touch, and that's why my lady doesn't take to children much. Well, there's stupid Mr. Lambert, with his 2 great coat flaps, must go and sit down on the Dresden shepherdess's laps, and if there was no such thing as rosewood chairs in the room, I couldn't have made a greater sweep with the handle of the broom. Mercy on us! How my mistress began to rave and tear. Well, after all, there's nothing like good ironsome wear for wear. If I should ever marry, that's flat, I'm sure it won't be John Dockery. I should be a wretched woman in a shop full of crockery. I should never like to wipe it, although I love to be neat and tidy, and afraid of mad bulls on market days every Monday and Friday. I'm very much mistook if Mr. Lambert's will be a catch. The breaking of the china will be the breaking of his own match. Mrs. wouldn't have an angel if he was so careless about china. She never forgives a chip if it's ever so small and tiny. Look, I never saw a man in all my life in such a taking. I could find it in my heart to pity him for all this mischief making, to see him stand a hammering, a stammering like a zany. But what signifies apologies if they won't mend old china? If he set her up whole crates full from Wedgwood's and Mr. Spode's, he couldn't make amends for the cracked mandarins and smashed toads. Well, everyone has their tastes. For my part, my own self, I'd rather have the figures on my poor dear grandmother's old shelf. A nice pea-green poll parrot, and 2 reapers with brown ears of corns, and a shepherd with a crook, and a lamb with 2 gilt horns, and such a Jimmy Jessamy in top boots and sky blue vest, and a frill and flowered waistcoat with a fine bow top on the breast. God help her, poor old soul. I shall come in to him at her death, though she's a hearty woman for all her years, except for her shortness of breath. Well, you think the things will mend? If they won't, Lord mend us all. My lady will go in fit, and Mr. Lambert won't need to call. I'll be bound in any money if I had a guinea to give. He won't sit down again on china the longest day he has to live. Poor soul. I only hope it won't forbid his banns of marriage, or he'd better have sat behind on the spikes of my lady's carriage. But you'll join 'em all, of course, and stand poor Mr. Lambert's friend. I'll look in twice a day, just to see, like, how they mend. To be sure, it is a slight that might draw tears from dogs and cats. Here's this pretty little pagoda has lost 4 of its cocked hats. Be particular with the pagoda. And then here's this pretty bowl. The Chinese prince is making love to nothing because of this hole. And here's another Chinese man with a face just like a doll. Do stick his pigtail on again just to mend his parasol. But I needn't tell you what to do, only do it out of hand, and charge whatever you like to charge. My lady won't make a stand. Well, good morning, Mr. What-do-you-call, for it's time our gossip ended. And you know the proverb, the less is said, the sooner the china's mended.